Of course, from the general public, President Akufo has finally made changes to his government. This comes a month after former Trade Minister Alan Chemartin and Agric Minister Dr. Osofia Akoto resigned to focus on their respective political campaigns. Now, what we know is that the Chief Justice Minister also resigned because of ill health issues that's taken him out of office for a very long time. Tonight, we review the nominations, asking the ultimate question: is this a masterstroke or a missed opportunity to make real and meaningful change that was demanded? Joining me in studio for this conversation is that member of parliament who led the charge on the side of the majority MPs for the removal of the finance minister, the Asante Achim North NP, the Honorable Andy Apiakubi. We'll be speaking to him. We'll also be joined by some analysis on the appointment of the Minister of State to the Finance Ministry by Professor Godfrey Bokpin. We'll also be hearing from a man who understands politics properly, because the question as to whether this is truly a reshuffle, properly so-called, has come up. And to help us put that contention in the right perspective is a distinguished political scientist, Professor Joseph Achuayi. Ladies and gentlemen, Upfront is going to be interesting today, but I'm starting from that Zoom call and the face you just saw there. Let me welcome Honorable. I hope you are doing well.
I'm good.
This is our first engagement this year.
Sure.
There are very interesting things to talk about. I mean, as to whether you are disappointed, you are excited, or you are happy about latest development. Some are even expecting your name on the list. But first, is this a reshuffle? That question, let me start from you.
Not quite a reshuffle, but a replacement of people who may have resigned.
I'll come back to you to expatiate on that. But let me go straight to Zoom and speak to Professor Joseph Achuayi. Prof, you're welcome to Upfront.
Thanks a lot, and good evening, and good evening to Andy, who is my former student.
Oh, yes. I'm told about your exploits at the University of Ghana, where you're very troublesome. That has been put on record.
Prof will tell you that I was one of his best students.
Okay. Yeah, Prof, that question, first, the likes of Professor Ransford Jampo have outrightly dismissed this as any form of reshuffle. Can we look through the appointments, the movements, and the changes that have been made in government and attribute even a scintilla of that move to a reshuffle?
So the basic question we need to ask is, what is a reshuffle? What do they call ministerial reshuffle? Ministerial reshuffle is the redistribution or reassignment of sector responsibilities, right, by the president. That is made by the president. So if you are talking about reshuffle, ministerial reshuffle, you are talking about the alteration of the composition of the ministerial team. Alteration, any changes. Okay. So that is why when you look at reshuffle, it may be classified under minor and major. So we have minor reshuffle and major reshuffle. A minor reshuffle, this is actually a typical example of a minor reshuffle because it was occasioned by one resignation, and then of course that's it, because the other one who resigned was also on health grounds. So by resignation, it was not a major one where you have a reconstruction of the total ministerial team. So this is a minor reshuffle. You can't say that it's not a reshuffle. It is a redistribution or reassignment of those. And in any reshuffle, there are winners and losers, what we call the politics of reshuffle.
Okay.
And if you are talking about the winners and losers, we have some people who were promoted. Nobody was demoted this time because they all resigned. You know, some people like the minister, deputy minister who moved to Minister of State at the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development.
Obiamwa.
Then a deputy minister for energy who moved to become Minister of State at the
Ministry.
At the Ministry of Finance. Yeah. So in any reshuffle, but the politics will come in because winners. So you have winners, losers. there will be within the same NPP, when the vacancy or the resignations came out, people were expecting to be appointed. They were not appointed. They were really not appointed. So, so that's what those people will have lost. So I always say that. So the minor reshuffle has been occasioned by resignations, right? If we are to be a major one where you have one policy direction, it will change the image of the government, it will also promote effectiveness and efficiency, then that's another one. But this one is a minor one which was occasioned by resignations. That's it.
So we are not wrong to call it a reshuffle after all. We can call it a reshuffle.
Redistribution, reassignment.
Okay. That's an interesting debate that has been happening immediately. This actually happened. You talked about the objectives of reshuffle, and you talked about seeking to change policy direction and all of that. Those being the elements of a major reshuffle, and you have said that what currently happened is a minor reshuffle.
Yeah.
Is it then justified, those who are absolutely convinced that this is no serious engagement, because what has been demanded by the people were not only the slight changes, but a major change to the team that will bring the results many were demanding?
Yeah, so no, I think that this is a cosmetic reshuffle or a minor one. It is what I call a business as usual reshuffle. It's not going to change anything much. And of course, if you look at the people who were brought in, they serve as ministers. Where were they now, or deputy ministers in the past, or under the previous President Akufo's government? So nothing new. So I think it's a business as usual reshuffle. It will not change anything. It will not even raise the image, the battered image of the government. It will not make the government more effective and more efficient. It is not about policy, direction. So I think that, even though I agree that this president has been reluctant with reshuffles, this one, he has not got any choice, because people have resigned, so you need to fill those positions. So his hands actually were forced by the resignation. So he hasn't got any choice. So, but I think that why not? People can decide that, we have been criticized over the years that, it's business as usual. Is there not a way of making an impact? For instance, at the Minister of State, at the Ministry of Finance.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I also want to point out is that it looks like Parliament has gained with the reshuffle, because apart from Mr. Samuel Boateng, and then the one who moved from trade to energy,
Herbert Crapper,
who are not members of Parliament, it looks like almost the others, the 3 or 4 others, are members of Parliament. So, which also means that Parliament has also gained. So we have this winners and this losers thing, but I think that it's a business as usual reshuffle, which is not going to change the image, the battered image of the government, and which is not going to make the government more effective and more efficient. But of course, as I said, why not? I know Dr. Mohammed Amin, when he was with civil society, he was running his own organization, very effective, very efficient. Maybe he may bring in some changes. Likewise, Mr. Samuel Boateng as Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, why not? It can change. And then, of course, Mr. Brian Achampong, why not? But you see, again, these were people who were in government before. What is the added value? What new things are they going to bring? And then we also have, this government has 2 years more, about 2 years more to live. So 2 years, what can you do? So I think that it is a late reshuffle, but the president hasn't got any choice.
I get your point.
He was filling vacancy. Yeah.
And Prof, if you would indulge me, I'll come back to you in a second. is one position that you mentioned that's been very controversial. And also because I have two people that have been part of this conversation. They were both categorically opposed to the continuous stay of the finance minister in office. My guest in studio, and also Professor Godfred Bokpin of the University of Ghana Business School. Prof, some say Mohamed Amin Anta is the addition to fix the problems many of you have complained about when it comes to the finance minister and his role and his management of the economy. He was not removed, but have you been placated by this decision? Yes, Prof.
Hello?
If you can hear me, Prof.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. Well, it's an interesting development. I think if it's about somebody to help rebuild the image of the government, especially with respect to the economy, then bringing a minister of state at in charge of finance really is not the solution. No, it's not at all. I think that Amin Adam, of course, he is very good, very intelligent, well qualified, but I don't think that he's been placed at a stage where he can influence policy and change the direction of things. No, not at all. I think the only help I think Honorable Minister of Finance, Honorable Kemo Ferrata needs right now, the kind of help he needs is when he himself resigns or he's removed from there. That would be the only genuine help.
I thought this was a middle ground that you would appreciate.
The middle ground. There's no middle ground here.
Okay.
There's no middle ground here. I think that, the reason we are talking like this is because, Ken's appointment 2017 actually signaled a certain private sector mindedness in doing things. And to be very honest with you, we supported Ken. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, and the market reacted positively. This is a private sector person, largely well accomplished in private business, in the private sector, had won awards, okay, best CEO, best this, and all of that. And he coming to no other ministry than the finance ministry, the expectations were very high. Okay, we are extremely disappointed like this because, we trusted that Honorable Keno Ferrata will do better than the previous finance ministers that we have seen. But unfortunately, it turned out to be the exact opposite, if not worse. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting dynamic, but if you could hold on, Prof, for a second for me, let me come in studio. I need to get your opinion because not long ago, just last year, you did mount a platform and you did give the president specific time and engage consistently. These new changes, are you excited about, for example, what has happened at the finance ministry, the additions there, which many say is supposed to make some of you feel that, well, we have filled a position to make sure that those of you in Parliament and those of you who are asking for change, you really have change happening?
Thank you very much, my brother, and all due respect to my Professor
Acquah, yeah.
It is one of the occasions that the student will disagree with the professor. And I want to beg to take leave of his positions and state my own position and justify same. I don't think that this is a reshuffle. And by his own definition, Professor, he says that when one is reassigned another responsibility, by definition of a reshuffle. And all those people coming into those positions, they have not been reassigned, they have just been appointed. The reassignment is where you have a position in government already and you are being changed from one position to another. And these people are coming from outside the government into those positions. So I will not call that reshuffle. More so when it has been engineered by some resignations. So, people are coming to fill the vacuum that's created as a result of the resignation. So, with all due respect to my professor, I totally disagree with him when he says that it's a minor or major reshuffle. And that those could be kept for academic purposes. But for practical politics, we cannot call that a reshuffle. So
but a deputy minister has been moved, for example. A deputy minister has now been moved to the finance ministry as a minister of state.
Yes.
Another deputy minister has been moved to the local government ministry as a minister of state.
When you go to your constitution, it tells you that a deputy minister assists a minister.
Yeah.
So tentatively, you don't have a specific role, except that the minister will assign you a role. So if you move from one position of helping to another position of helping, what has changed?
But that's an elevation. An elevation is when you have been a deputy minister, now you are in the position of a minister of state.
The position of a deputy minister and a minister of state, the only difference is that you are given a specific assignment and you are reporting to a president. That's the only difference. Beyond that, the mandate of the minister in the ministry will not have changed. And the mandate of the minister in the ministry is to superintend whatever happens within the ministry. And your elevation, so-called, from deputy to minister, will not influence or affect the authority and management of the minister himself, except that you will be given a specific mandate and say, look at this thing critically and report directly to the president, which may be part of the chain of the issues that come within the domain of the minister, or may be an emerging issue that you need to deal with. You say, so that so-called elevation in theory exists, but practically that so-called elevation, save the reportage, the special assignment, it is still within the ministry and it is subject to the supervision of the minister. And therefore, the minister will assign you duties and responsibilities, except if there is a particular issue or section or policy direction that you need to manage personally and report to the president. And in most cases, these are very hard to come by.
Are you happy with the latest decision?
Well, why wouldn't I be happy? I'm happy because we have opportunity for other people to also express their talent and their performance. So I'm happy. I mean, change is always that which brings change. So why not?
Is it a middle line to what you are asking for?
You see, we are not talking about all the changes. In fact, I'm particularly excited at the appointment of the new agriculture minister, because if I look back into history, I see that most of the ministers who come into that position as ministers of agriculture with military background, they've done exceptionally well. I start from Kenneth Benasco of the past, Commodore Bimpe, Major Courage Kwashiga, and then we come to doctor and just graduated as a PhD.
Yeah, he just did rural defense,
Dr. Brian Champon. And looking at the pedigree of Dr. Brian Champon, I expect a lot from him. And indeed, when you look at his background, he's an IT person.
Yeah.
So he is very current. Again, he is a private sector person, an astute business person. So, from that perspective, he will not be found wanting in his interaction with a chain of businessmen in the agriculture ministry. Again, being a businessman, he will be alert to the consciousness of his expected collaboration with the Ministry of Trade, so that we can realize our presence there.
Indeed. I mean, forgive me, but I'm interrupting you because I will come to the Brian Champon appointment later on. Because I have Professor Bokpin and yourself on, that's why I'm actually picking up the very role of the finance ministry first. Were you disappointed that this change did not lead to the current finance minister being removed?
Well, the expectation was that after the consultation with the president, pursuant to our declaration that finance minister be changed, we had a timeline that we all needed to follow. And for us as members of parliament and in the group, we religiously followed those timelines and the signposts we passed, and we delivered as per the expectation of the engagement. So when we got to that stage of staff approval with the IMF, having passed the budget and the appropriation, we thought that we had finished our part of the bargain and expected the president to act. So we are still in waiting in the hope that something will happen.
You still expect that he will remove the finance minister?
You see, all that we can do constitutionally is to do the agitation and places at the doorstep of the president. We, as members of parliament, indeed the public, we cannot go beyond the limit of the constitutional expectation. The Constitution says that in the event that you need to do anything by way of asking for change, you only place the request at the doorstep of the president, who may. And the Constitution did not say who shall. So even in the censorship application and the voting and all that,
which you didn't support,
even if it had passed, it would not have caused automatic change. It would have been still a prayer to the president to cause the change. So it's only the president that has the mandate to cause the change. And in any case, we are talking about we didn't support. We didn't support because we didn't think that it was that necessary at the time to support. Because you don't forget what had happened before the censorship motion. We had done our press conference. We had engaged the president. We had discussed the modus of change. And we were already talking to president. If even the censorship motion had passed, all that they were going to do was to place it before the president. And even there, the operational word is may. So the president may.
Okay.
So it is something that the censorship motion was seeking to do that we had done already. So there was no need for us to
I get your point.
Start. Because fancy, we are going to Kumasi, and we have set up from Accra. We have gotten to the junction of University of Science and Technology. And then somebody comes to start the same journey from Circle. And we say we should come back and join the vehicle from Circle to Kumasi. We're already there. We're already making the prayer to the president. So to start that censorship motion was to go back and restart the same journey.
I will come back to you, but let me now hear, because it was Professor Bokpin that I started this conversation with. Prof, are you expecting in the future the president will ever heed the call for the removal of the finance minister? Mindful of what has just happened. Okay, well, I think we do not have Professor Bokpin on, but let me ask Professor Acquah this question, because I'm sure he'll be leaving us pretty soon too. Prof, the question is, from what has happened in the current engagement with the current reshuffle, the minor one being, is there an expectation that there's supposed to be a major one in the offering priority election?
I'm not too sure, given that this president is reluctant when it comes to reshuffle. I doubt if he would like to do that, but who knows? You see, it depends on, well, he's trying to revitalize the economy, revamp the economy. That is major priority. And if he feels that revamping will need to actually consolidate the revamping of the economy, if he wants to do a reshuffle, but he's been in office for 6 years. I doubt if he wants to do a major, particularly when his term will end in January 2025.
Okay, now there's a question though. Many believe that president's refusal or reluctance to do what the people have asked for is a slap in the face of the kind of representative democracy that the people should be having. Is this something that makes sense to you?
I mean, very good point. People always say that, well, the Constitution gives the president the power to appoint and disappoint. But you see, in terms of good governance, the president has to perform those rules, taking in mind the citizens, the opinions of citizens, and the wishes of citizens. So honestly, I don't buy the idea when you say, oh, it's the prerogative of the president. Yes, the prerogative of the president, but the president is ultimately accountable to the people of Ghana. So I was a little bit disappointed by the president and even his own party. I know that, well, some of the party officials had talked to him, or they had a meeting and all that. I thought that the the clamor for a major reshuffle was in good taste. And I think the president should have taken the opportunity to do so. If he had done that, most of these issues, most of these issues about the domestic debt exchange program and others would have been solved. But people thought that he became intransigent. So going forward, I think presidents of the republic must know that that exercise of power is done based on citizens. The citizens are really important. They actually voted for you. And his contribution to good governance would have found a place if he had listened to the clamor for a major reshuffle. He didn't take the opportunity, and therefore, I think his legacy actually has been dented because of his lack of not being able to listen to the wishes of citizens.
I am grateful to you for joining us this evening, Prof, and I'm sure we can do further conversations in the future. Many thanks to you, Professor Joseph Acquah. And if you know him, he's a distinguished political scientist of so many years of teaching and competence in the field.
And let's say a big thank you to him for having lectured most of us.
Okay, well, that's interesting too, anyway. But of course, if you want to know a lot about reshuffles and government appointments, he has written for almost 3 or so decades about this particular subject. That's why we brought him into the conversation. Let me conclude with Professor Bokpin too. So, Prof, you didn't get your way this time around. Are you hopeful that the finance minister may give way anytime soon? Professor Bokpin, yes.
Yeah, can you take your question again?
I was asking that what many of you had demanded did not happen this time around. Are you hopeful that anytime in the future, the president may have a change of heart to actually remove, or the finance minister himself may give way?
Well, I think that what we see happening is a bit of a confidence dip in the administration. Okay, so one of the things the president can do to build confidence in his administration is to consider some of these critical things. It's important because, you know, the economy is not just the technical economy, the expectations and all of that. And I'm sure if you do a baseline survey, you realize that approval rating for the current Minister of Finance has gone down considerably. So if you are going through a major restructuring like this, and then IMF program, debt restructuring and all of that, I think it requires some kind of change in leadership at that critical sector, which is the finance ministry. So one will be hopeful that going forward, the president will take a critical lead, that it will be the best interest of the country as a whole. And I'm sure it will ultimately also kneel to the benefit of the president and his administration. As things stand right now, it's not good overall for the image of the president.
The question that's on the minds of many is, Amin Adams is, if he is put in charge of the things you are complaining about, the things you feel the current finance minister has no credibility to pursue going forward, if Dr. Amin Adams take over, if he is now in charge of all of those economic decisions that are key and relevant, that's actually been underperforming recently, would it bring back the confidence in the economy? Would the credibility loss be restored in the process?
No. So much credibility deficit has been created that merely asking one person. Don't forget that he's not completely an outsider. He's been at the energy ministry.
A deputy position.
Okay, so and beyond that, it's not just changing the head of the finance ministry or maybe adding somebody as the Minister of State. But I think it has to do with some level of reducing the size and some drastic changes. We need to do something to signal that, yes, leadership is on the table, and therefore people can get along.
Okay. Now,
yes,
Prof.
I think that is what we should be looking at. It's not just one person. There isn't much that we can do. Right? It requires a whole changes to the government machine. This way, I'm sure that they can rally the market to.
Prof, I'm grateful to you for your time this evening. I pulled you out of the classroom for the conversation. I'm grateful that you joined that conversation. I'm coming back in studio here, and we continue the conversation. Now, I was asking you before I actually went to Professor Bokpin, I was asking you about whether, from where you sit, this is a decision, especially the Amin Atta involvement, that would solve the problems you have outlined the very first day. You did the press conference and said there were this and that. Those issues you listed, is Amin Atta's involvement likely to abate all of them, give hope and confidence to the sector that's been battered recently?
Well, all congratulations to my very good friend Amin Atta. I hope that his inclusion will help, clean the image of the ministry and also abate the suffering of that ministry, because it has been the ministry that has been most criticized. So his involvement probably will abate the attacks on the ministry, hopefully, because I have known him, a young man. He has serious ambition in life and in politics. So I hope that he will work to support the work of the ministry as a person. But whether or not he can also affect policy direction is another thing to
You don't think he can?
The position and role and the portfolio he holds, like I tried to explain before, it may be an assignment of a particular nature and to be reporting back to the president. So who knows? It may be one of the solutions that the ministry will lack. So my prayers are with him.
Until the time that we left off the break, when there was this conversation in Parliament, what happened between the time the party intervened for you majority MPs to cooperate with government? Because your instructions were quite clear that you not do business with government or with the finance minister, and any business emerging from his end will not be attended to if he is not removed. Did you back down completely from that position, or that is conceivably still on the table anytime soon?
That request was not made in a vacuum.
Okay.
We had given the platform upon which we made that request, and the platform was the consultation we had with our constituents and the advice they gave us and the expectations they showed towards us. So in all cases, you do a back and forth consultation and see whether you understood the instructions properly, whether by your operation you are on the right track, whether you are meeting those expectations. So there were a lot of consultations. And you see, it is only the dead person who cannot change his mind or position on a particular issue. And if there is an issue there and the consensus is that let's help abate the possible effect of your action by way of conceding to certain things happening now for a future benefit. Why not? And we did a lot of consultations, and therefore, at the time where we hadn't even passed our budget, where the IMF had started the negotiation with government, we were discussing with our constituents also, and the advice we took from different stakeholders meant that we needed at the time to accommodate the ongoing negotiations and also ensure that the budget was passed for us to be able to have a relief going into the next year, which is this year. So, in fact, per the advice we took from our constituents and stakeholders, it became imperative for us to abate the suffering at the time and make sure that we wouldn't get a situation where the course of action will further affect the development of the country and the progressions that the government wanted to make. So at that point in time, we were prevailed upon by our constituents that it is important for us to have a budget passed, and therefore
But not that the party influenced you to back down.
No, the party didn't influence us. There was consensus built in. And in fact, there were engagements here and there, not only in the party, outside the party. Business people, we spoke to some of them. Professionals, we spoke to
Your
some
District
of them.
Assembly's Common Fund was paid, actually.
Well, it was one of the fallouts of the discussions and negotiations. We spoke to even the clergy. We spoke to chieftaincy, people in chieftaincy. So, well, aggregating all the advice that came, the most prudent position we took was that let's allow the budget to pass and let's also accommodate the negotiations on the IMF deal and let's defer the expectations into the future, which we have done.
So are there new timelines for these expectations?
There have not been any new timelines. We had the timelines as we agreed on before are the same timelines that we expect.
No, the question I'm asking is, you said you are deferred into the future. As we speak today, there's a staff level agreement. We are actually going through domestic debt exchange programming. In fact, we are in the final days of it. By Friday, it should be concluded. The question I'm asking is, are you still demanding the removal of the finance minister, or that has been completely abandoned?
Well, if it was to be abandoned, we would have served notice of the abandonment. Once you serve notice of an existence of an expectation, it doesn't wash away by wind.
Okay.
If you will be taken away at all, it will be taken away by another notice.
Okay,
no, withdraw the first notice.
I get you, because many of us just felt there was some vacuum.
Since we haven't served this such notice, I'm sure the status quo until remains.
As in, you are still insisting that he should be removed?
Well, we have, like I'm saying, we have served notice of our intention and our expectation. So once we have not served a counter notice, the presumption is that the old notice prevails.
Yeah, but when you say some people prevailed upon you to...
I said interest parties,
okay,
stakeholders, and I have mentioned
constituents,
the groups, constituents, party, even the clergy, professionals, academia, people in chieftaincy. So there was wide consultation.
So what they did is to ask you to hold on or abandon the position. That's what I want to clarify.
It was to reason with us the need for us as a country to accommodate the pain for some time and allow government business to roll so that the state of Ghana will have continuity.
Okay, so we have not determined new timelines, right? So there are no new timelines on when you want the finance minister to go?
As I'm saying, we have not determined new timelines. So we haven't served any further notice pursuant to the old notice. So if we want to look at any reference point at all, the reference point would be the old notice.
Okay, but that's the point. But because we are finished with the staff level agreement, and you have not gone back to reiterate that point. So today, if the finance minister brings business to Parliament, you will do it, right?
Not until we have met and taken a new direction or a new position. For now, the position as we took before the vacation is still the position. We haven't had a meeting since.
Okay.
And like I always tell you, if I am given a mandate by any group that I'm part to do the advocacy on the behalf of that group, I'll so do. But for now, since we haven't had that meeting, anything that I say now is my opinion. And my opinion may run contrary to the opinion of the group.
Of the group.
So that is why I am hesitant at taking a position.
I get you. Is there any indication of when you are likely to meet on this matter?
Oh yes, when we only just came back to office yesterday. And when we have come, we need to also reflect over what happened over the vacation and the information we received. We need to process all that. We get our personal assistants to do the necessary research and also bring us their findings. We need to consolidate all such information coming from left and right, and then we need to build a consensus position going forward. And we haven't done that. And you see, the work of the parliamentarian is not all about advocacy in parliament.
That's true.
It's not all about committee meetings. It's also about constituency vibes that come and how you process that. And then you interface that into what comes from the national level. And then you see the position you take. Sometimes you even write brief statements based on the research work, the personal interactions and all that. So it is early days yet in this period. We need to begin to process the information we have at the appropriate time when we have processed our information, and we need to synchronize one with the other. We will have a meeting and look at that and say, after that, we will come out with a hybrid position that all of us in the group will adopt.
In the meantime, I've heard members of parliament, for example, the one for Otafo, saying that you should completely abandon this quest to get him out, because between the period from the vacation throughout to this time, he's been doing a lot of good work. And that he and others, have also heard others, include Dr. Akufo, say it should not be something that should be considered at all.
You see, all of us are speaking our individual minds. And I think before we even started this conversation, I told you that we have not met.
Yeah.
So I consider also all such inputs as opinions. They have a right to express personal opinions. But like I'm saying, if I have to come public on issues like that, I should have the mandate of the people that I represent to do such advocacy. I don't have that mandate. So even as I talk to you now, I'm only just expressing my personal opinion.
I get you.
Which I probably will put into the bowl when we go back into the committee and we want to aggregate the views and harmonize them and take a position that will be representative of the membership of the committee. But for now, we have not met. And when we have not met, I cannot...
tell us the position of the group that was making the demand.
There is no positions because we haven't met.
Okay.
And I cannot assume that I have a definitive mandate to express.
Okay, now I get your point. Now, there's this other point that's been raised too. Personally, are you disappointed the president did not take advantage of the recent resignations to do a major reshuffle?
Well, I would have been much happier if the president had taken full advantage of the present situation to do it. But again, he has the prerogative to take decisions at which points in time. So whatever I can do would be probably expression of my opinion or putting up a suggestion to him. But it is him alone and him in the executive presidency that has the mandate and the people's authority to express any opinion or mandate, which is executive in nature, for which all of us will follow. So for now, what I can do would be to make suggestions.
Were you disappointed?
Personally, I wasn't too happy with the extent of the changes that happened. But like I'm saying, he may have his reasons why his expression was limited. But for now, I haven't had opportunity of talking to him. So I haven't had a justification to the actions he has taken.
You singled out the Agric Minister designate, Brian Achampon. Beyond him, are the others acceptable to you?
Well, the issue of acceptability is neither here nor there.
Oh, okay.
I don't have any power to.
No, I'm asking you for opinion because you had good reason. You had good reason to select one and say this is a good move.
No, I know him.
Yeah.
And I know his capabilities.
Okay.
And I have also advertised his background even on this show.
Yeah, I get you.
And you saw that the one that we most expected to happen carries the burden. Okay. And I know he can carry the burden faithfully. So I am happy, particularly happy for him because I expect a lot from him, looking at his background. And I know he will deliver. So I'm particularly happy for him having been chosen to lead. And you know something, the potential in Agric, he is a person who may be in a position to identify it, promote it, and champion it for...
But we've had Planting for Food and Jobs. We've had other similar flagship programs.
All those flagship programs, sometimes the driver may accelerate the process, and maybe the acceleration may bring us better revenue or better results. So I know, I mean, these are flagship programs, but I also know the energy that he carries into the office. And that energy, they used to call something momentum.
Okay, yeah.
Calculating momentum.
Yes.
There were some constants. If you look at the velocity, that will change, but the weight is always constant because it was what it was. So let's say the policy is the weight, and the velocity is the person who's taking the seat now, and the energy he brings. So when you do the multiplication of the weight and the velocity, have a momentum that is probably bigger than the one before. So that is what I expect Brian to bring into the office. His person, his energy, his image, his knowledge, his background, his vision, I'm sure multiplied with the program, what did you call it?
Planting for Food and Jobs.
Planting for Food and Jobs, which is a constant. I'm sure that we will get beneficial interest more than we ever had.
When you speak to the people of Asante-Achem North, what do they say about you in Parliament not having to carry through the removal of the finance minister?
They didn't send me to Parliament to come and remove somebody.
No, yes. But you told us that they had told you categorically that they wanted the finance minister to go.
They sent me to Parliament and upon this advice, amongst many others.
Yes.
And I'm not sure there's any parliamentarian who can do all that his constituents ask of him. So we also get marked by percentages.
Okay.
If they gave you a range of expectations,
yes,
and you did 70% of that, I mean, I'm sure they will be happy that notwithstanding the failure in some of them, you would have excelled in others, including even doing the advocacy on the show now with you, probably my constituents watching. So they will probably be proud.
Are they happy with you?
Well, I should think so. They will be proud even
Would the powers that be want you removed?
Who are the powers that be?
Of course, I mean, obviously, you went against the President of the Republic. You went against the Finance Minister. It's only politically reasonable that they also try their shot at you.
But is it part of the operations or the workings or the mandate to be removing people? I don't think so.
But that's real politics. You understand real politics?
Yes, but any politician can be removed at any time.
Yes. Are there attempts to remove you as member of Parliament?
Well,
replace you will be a final word.
Replace me. Okay. It is suicidal not to consider what other people can do. You need to consider everything.
Yeah.
But you don't have to hate people who hate you, because in your hating, you may even forget their potential.
Would you want to go back to Parliament?
I will contest to go back to Parliament. You will contest? I will do so when the nominations are open, but it is not in my hands to come to Parliament. It is based on the judgment placed on the constituents, based on what they think I would have done.
Have you seen potential
including what we are doing right now?
Have you seen potential opponents?
Oh, anything that is worth keeping is worth contesting for. And therefore, you should always be ready for competition.
How many people
and indeed, if you are not competed against, it means that you are not doing well.
Honorable, how many people are competing with you for this?
I wouldn't know because we haven't opened nominations. But
you are on the grounds. I mean, if we can hear some of them, how can you not be in the know of it?
When you investigate that which are hidden, probably you get to know. But when you confirm the position, use the same time to confirm the position you have, you make the opposition irrelevant.
Are you afraid that you will be a candidate will be raised against you?
Why should I be afraid? Even not if somebody raises a candidate. I expect even candidates themselves raising themselves against me.
Okay.
And that shows that they are interested in what I'm doing. Maybe they appreciate what I'm doing, and they want to be challenged to do better than I have done. So what is wrong with that?
If people say that you have finally been compromised, that's why the position has changed, what do you say to those?
Which position has changed?
Oh, first, you want the man to go, we will not cooperate with government. Now, you basically are cooperating with government, even though the man is still in office.
From all that we have discussed.
Yes.
we have told you about the conversations that have happened. We have told you about the engagement. I am not an island within the country Ghana. I connect to people connect to me, and working for a purpose is working with and through people. So I cannot be an island to say that I am intransigent and I'm taking a position and I stay on it and die on it. No. You see, as you connect and engage, you maneuver and meander through problems. So I expect everybody also to, and again, this thing is also not limited to us as a group alone or me as a person alone. It's limited to all of us. So we may have a group of footballers probably saying that Appiah Kubi must go. And if the footballers say so, and the netball players say, no, Appiah Kubi must stay, we need to marry the expectations and see which one will supersede the other.
Do you agree with Pastor Bopi when he says the kind of damage done at the finance ministry, the only remedy will be removing the finance minister?
Well, that is his opinion.
Do you agree with him?
I say that is his opinion. That
you previously held that position. I'm asking whether you agree with him now.
He says the only remedy.
Yes.
I am a lawyer. I choose my words very carefully. He says the only remedy.
But no, so if I'm not being pedantic.
No. I probably would have said one of the remedies.
Okay.
You see, so that you have windows.
I get you.
Otherwise, you say the only remedy. Now we have the only remedy. And if he says it's the only remedy is not working. So all of us should go to dive. No? So he would have said one of the remedies.
Okay.
So because there's nothing.
The question I'm asking is whether you agree with him. That's the substantive point.
No, I'm saying that is his opinion. When he says the only remedy, I cannot agree with somebody who says there's only one way, except in Christianity that we say the only way to God is Christ the only way. It's in Christianity which we adopt and use. But apart from Christianity, I cannot agree with anybody who says the way to do one thing is only one. I don't agree with people like that.
Like what the minority did. Is this time to change the leadership of the majority?
Well, minority party probably had a reason to change. We don't change just because change is beautiful. We change to suit circumstances and occasions.
Okay.
So I don't know the premise on which they caused the change. But I'm not sure that in the majority we have seen any such need to cause the change. Probably I'm speaking my mind again, and I haven't heard of anybody within the majority saying that we need to cause change. And change is beautiful when it satisfies an occasion.
Finally, on the domestic debt exchange, the one that they are demanding should be brought to Parliament for some form of review. Do you support the call?
I support the call for engagement, generally.
I'm narrowing down to the Parliament one. The Parliament should look at it and keenly review it.
So I come back. You see, I don't expect Parliament alone to call. I expect Parliament to even advise for engagement outside Parliament so that a hybrid of opinion will come to Parliament for us to also discuss and bring opinions. So the engagement must be wider than Parliament. Okay. So I support the call for the engagement to come to Parliament. And indeed, it started yesterday because there was a question and there was a minister responding to it. This is the beginning of the engagement. And I expect that to go on because the whole issue of domestic debt exchange sounds like a mystery. Not many people understand. You see, not many of us have finance background. So even putting some three words together into a concept is difficult for us to appreciate. You understand? So it's important that we engage more, bring the language down for all of us to understand, and also allow people to also make contributions to the formulation of the policy, and also even in the implementation, allow people to also make suggestions as to how best to implement this policy. But again, the most important thing is to explain ourselves why we have to adopt that policy. The whys have not come, and therefore the understanding is also in the air, and therefore the implementation is seen as a mirage.
Has he done it right? Has the finance minister done it right?
If he has done it right, we won't be talking about all the engagements that are still waiting. And I'm saying that even the why will get us all prepared. The how will get us contributing, maybe ideas. And the way forward will also be discussed by all of us. And the timelines and the strategy to get there will be designed by all of us.
Oh, but the timeline is just this Friday. The administrative extension is this Friday.
You see, it is because we don't have the understanding, full understanding of what we are doing. So the timeline is not Friday. The timeline for signing on is Friday.
Yeah, that's true.
But the timeline for the implementation and effect of it is in the future.
The Honorable and the Apia Kubi is the Asante Achim North MP. Honorable, we should be engaging more this new year.
We should be engaging more.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you're only interested in...
Oh, but I invite you all the time.
No. This year, this is the first time
yes.
I received your call.
I will call you consistently.
You have not been diligent enough.
Oh.
You have to consider that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Honorable. Many thanks to you also for joining tonight's
And
Upfront.
again, thank my professor who made me who am I.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he was seeking to get me a scholarship to go to the United Nations University.
Okay.
It didn't materialize, but Prof, take it as you tried, but it didn't happen.
Well, thank you so much, Honorable, too. Folks, that's where we end today's Upfront.